Hi there, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for this full moon in Leo video. I will start by saying that it is a particularly strong full moon, given that it is in the sign of Leo, symbolized by the Strength card in the tarot deck. So, if we're looking at the full moon in and of itself, right, it symbolizes a peak of energetic expression, very high energy frequency. And that is, in a way, symbolized by fire, right? The fire element. So when you take the full moon and you put it in the sign of Leo, which is a fire sign, you get very strong energy flow. So, and because it relates to the moon, this can speak to our emotions, our emotional self, right? Feeling a lot of emotion, feeling a lot of fire energy within us. And I believe it's absolutely imperative that you that you harness and express this fire energy in such a way that is healthy, right? That is that makes for the proper expression and use of that fire energy, right? So absolutely, I would engage in fire activities like exercise, sweating. It's so important to sweat, right? Walks are great, but to actually get that fire burning, right? Think about fire. Think about a fireplace. Think about a campfire when you're looking into the fire pit, right? What do you feel? What do you sense? That's the sort of energetic expression that I think is important to mimic during this time, right? Because fire energy that's left to sort of broil inside of us can lead to these sort of other way of expressing fire energy, the other side of fire energy, right? Because every element has its positive manifestation and its negative manifestation, so to speak, negative. So, so if we're looking at fire energy, right, it speaks to pride, strength, resilience, right? The initiative, the courage that it takes to move forward in a certain direction. It speaks to presentation, right, of the self. Namely, if we're looking at the Strength card, we very much see that sort of feeling, right, that's emanated from the card. But that manifestation, right, of energy can also, when not properly harnessed and utilized and expressed in a healthy way, can lead to its other form of expression, right? Which sometimes can lead to feelings of anger, right? Feeling just at your boiling point, feeling, sometimes it can also lead to an expression of in some ways, right? It depends, but, and we see this also with the Strength card, it can also symbolize a potential sort of feeling of, I don't want to say arrogance, but somewhat of an overcompensation of that feeling of pride, of power, of, right? So it's this fine line between the positive wielding of fire energy and that which is not conducive, right, to our ultimate desire to manifest and create. Too much fire growing wildly out of control can destroy, right, as we see on the Tower card of the tarot deck. But fire, when tempered appropriately, when contained and channeled in a way that is truly positive, truly conducive, ultimately leads to creation, right? Fire being a very creative element to work with. So having said that, right, it's a beautiful time during this full moon in Leo to assess, right, how we wield our fire energy. Everybody has fire energy. Everyone has fire energy. Some people more than others, right, depending on the planetary placements in your chart, right? And if you don't know the planetary placements in your chart, I have a service on my website, alchemyandyou.com. You can click that. It's an astrological chart report and interpretation. You'll get a feel for your elemental composition as a whole. But regardless of that, everybody has fire. Everybody has a certain level of fire. So this is a beautiful time, again, to take a step back and think about how are we exerting our will, right? Is it in a healthy way for ourselves and for others? Is it being channeled in a way that's helping us create, right? Or is it inhibiting us? Is it sabotaging our growth in some sort of way, right? So to speak. So, full moon is oftentimes a period of fruition of whatever seed or intention we planted during the new moon period. And I will say this, right? In a month, we have one new moon and we have one full moon. But that's the micro cycle. There's also a macro cycle in terms of the year. So what it means is, yes, within every month, right, you have a new moon, you set an intention, it's a brand new slate, right? Taking advantage of those very fertile energies, which then in some shape or form culminates, brings illumination and fruition at the full moon in the same month. But when looking at the macro sort of stage of manifestation, right, we look at the yearly cycle. We look at the new moon in that year that corresponds to the full moon in that year, both within the same sign. So it means the new moon in Leo, which was 6 months ago, because they are always corresponding within a 6-month interval. The new moon in Leo corresponds to the full moon in Leo. So in a more macro way, think about what you were really focused on, trying to bring to fruition, right? During the new moon period in Leo 6 months ago. And whatever that is, right, it is now reaching its peak at this full moon that we have today. So that's why I think it's so incredibly important to keep track of the moon cycles, right? It's really stepping into the rhythm of our energies by way of the moon's course. So the next new moon will be coming up, I believe, at the end of this month. So stay tuned for that. I'll have a video on that to assess sort of the energies for each of the signs during that period of time, so you can make the most of that new beginning of a cycle for the moon. All right. Nonetheless, I'd love to get started here. There's a lot of beautiful energy to work with. I'm already feeling it, high intensity. So let's get right to it. Cancer. Okay, Cancer, I'm feeling this wants to come out. I'm feeling, right, that it's almost like, it's like this. It's like this. You've been swimming underwater, okay? You've been swimming underwater. And you know how, like, when you're swimming underwater, your eyes are kind of blurry. Like, everything looks kind of fuzzy if you open your eyes underwater. And, but you were, like, trying to find your way almost. But you knew everything is blurry because I'm underwater, right? The pressure of the water is on me. It's not conducive to achieving clarity in some way, right? So I'm saying there was pressure. There was pressure. There has been pressure. Okay, there has been pressure. And it can be emotional pressure, but it can just be the environment that you're in. I'm feeling environment, situation, a lot of pressure on you, okay? And so you were swimming underwater, right? Almost through a fog, through a haze, right? But you are now allowing yourself, you know how when you're underwater and then you open your mouth or you exhale, right? Or is it the opposite where you suck in all the air and you kind of so that you're buoyant, right? And you float. Either way, I'm sensing that you're now rising to the surface of the water, and you are now letting your head come out of the water, and you are taking a deep breath. It seems the first deep breath that you've taken for a while. Okay, so I'm sensing, okay, and this full moon, Cancer, you guys are Cancer, you're ruled by the moon, right? So inevitably the moon cycle has a tremendous impact on your sign, okay? And really for anyone who has a lot of water in their chart, or for someone as well who has a lot of Cancer in their chart, right? Depending on all their planets, where their planets are placed, because that has such an impact. And if you want to know for yourself in particular, if you don't know and you want to figure that out, sort of your elemental composition, I have a service on my website. It's called the Astrological Report and Interpretation. I'll compute all of your planets for you, and you'll have sort of a snapshot, an interpretation of your elemental composition. That should give you more of a sense, right? Beyond your sun sign, really elementally, the energy of your blueprint, right, of your birth. So it's really interesting to know. It's, I think, very helpful, especially when doing tarot, because then you really get this sense of, right, like this energy is showing up. Is this a propensity that I have naturally given my birth chart, right? Which is an initial expression of our energy, right, as beings. So if that's of interest to you, you can click the link in my description box below, and that will take you to my website, and you can click services and go through it that way. Or you could just go to alchemyunion.com and you can click services and you'll find it there. All right, if that's helpful for you. But anyways, anyone with a lot of Cancer in their chart or a lot of water in their chart is inevitably going to be, is going to feel the course and the movement of the moon through its natural cycle quite strongly, very strongly. Okay, so at the full moon, you are going to feel very emotional, right? Feeling a lot of emotions, and it can be expressed, right? Again, how I mentioned in the beginning of this video, those emotions can be channeled and expressed in a really conducive, healthy, positive way, or if they're left to sort of broil to a certain point where it's almost like a boiling point, right? Like the kettle is burning, that kind of thing. Then that energy will manifest in a different way, right? So it's about properly and effectively channeling our energies so that we really are stepping into the most powerful and healthy, conducive, right, expression of our energy, so to speak. Okay? So when we're in balance elementally, then we're able to really be the alchemist, right? To be the manifester, to create what we want to create, right? But our elements must be effectively harnessed. Okay? Okay, this card wants to come out. Ooh, yes, it certainly does, and it wants to come out upright. Daughter of Wands, Son of Cups. I'm going to set those aside. We'll talk about that. Yeah, I'm sensing, especially for you, Cancer, this is a peak. This is a peak in some sort of cycle. Absolutely. I mean, regardless, the full moon is, but I'm sensing that for you, it's really, see, because in general, the full moon can speak to, like we mentioned beginning of this video, macro culmination and fruition, or micro culmination and fruition, as we see in the monthly cycle versus the yearly cycle. Okay, and if you want to understand a little more about these details here, you can watch the beginning of the video, and I explain that. But regardless, in the macro cycle during the month, you have the new moon and then you have the full moon, right? So at the new moon, you set your intentions, and then at the full moon, you sort of see whatever it was that you had put your energy and your efforts towards, the vision that you crystallized during the new moon, you now, during the full moon, achieve some sort of illumination with, a sort of light of viewing towards, right? So, okay, just because you put, let's say, an intention out during the new moon, you're like, I want to manifest this, right? Okay, the full moon is going to illuminate something, is going to bring something to fruition and bring clarity of some sort, but it's not necessarily, right, going to bring you exactly what you set your intention for at that new moon prior. Okay, now, why? Because if we look at, again, the macro stage of the moon cycle through the year, right, we see the energy moving within a 6-month interval. What does this mean? That when you, today is the full moon in Leo, we look 6 months back to the new moon in Leo, right? And we think, okay, whatever it was that we were really focused on at that period of time, that we were really tuned into, dialed into in terms of our vision, in terms of what we wanted to create and manifest, whatever we're focused on, that energy, right, reaches its macro peak at the corresponding full moon 6 months later in the year. So it's important, right? It's important. I'm sensing that this is a period of time that is speaking to a major culmination for you. Wow. Cancer. Strength. And I'll tell you, the way that your cards are popping out are like, I mean, energy is flowing out. Energy is flowing out. You are stepping into your power. You're stepping into your power. Clarity is coming. Clarity is very much coming for you, Cancer. Very much. This card wants to pop out. Yeah. Oh my God. Justice. Justice. Ultimate clarity card. Ultimate. And it's about looking at a situation head on, very much like the Strength card, right? There's a very head on, forward, viewing, moving, thinking, and acting sort of energy with this card. And Justice is looking at, is this, really, what is the situation? What is happening in the situation, right? What is fair? What is right? And how do I want to proceed in it, right? There's no longer murky waters. You're no longer underwater. You're no longer holding yourself underwater. You're letting yourself rise, right, on the horizon, and you're now looking out. You're now breathing fresh air, right? Oxygen. You are, there's a certain feeling of respiration that's happening, I'm feeling, on many levels for you, okay? Now, you have the Son of Cups and the Daughter of Wands that popped out. The Daughter of Wands was in reverse, but then it popped out and it was upright. So, I'm sensing, right, these both speak to a sort of journey, a rediscovery of ourselves. And you have a lot of personal transformation energy over here on the right side. So, with Strength right in the middle. So, what I'm sensing is there's a shift in your perception, there's a shift in your perspective of how you are approaching the situation, of how you are interpreting the situation, and right, really taking whatever it is that you have experienced and transmuting it, right, and viewing it in such a way that is self-empowering, right? That's one thing. That's one transformation that seems is happened. You're clear-sighted with how you want to move forward in some shape or form in terms of, again, the macro energy, right, of your being. But in terms of, I'm sensing the new beginning of what you want to replace this old situation with is slowly making an entrance, slowly coming in. And I felt this energy for you guys for so long. There's this very tepid approach that you have with entering something that is new for you in as it regards your emotions, as it regards your creativity, right? Taking a new creative direction, project, venture, anything like that, as we see oftentimes with the Son of Cups card and the Daughter of Wands, wielding that fire energy, another very creative card. So I'm sensing, Cancer, that this is a period of time where you are, it's a major shifting point of your personal self-perception and having a realization of, in a macro sense, what direction you want to move in, right? The change of your being. But when we look at sort of the means by which that change will now express itself in your daily life, or even in your job, your vocation, right, and your efforts, you are still entering that world slowly, maybe still trying to figure it out even, okay? So yes, beautiful card again to have during the full moon in Leo. This is Leo's card. We talked about this at the very beginning of the video. Strength is Leo's card. So you are feeling, right, you are stepping into your power, Cancer, okay? Revel in that period of self-discovery that's healthy, that's positive. Absolutely, okay? And this period of time can also accompany a decision for you, one that is spoken, where you take the charge, you take the reins, and you really communicate it clearly, right? And if you're not communicating that decision or anything like that, I could just speak to sort of the clarity, the newfound clarity that you have in terms of how you personally want to proceed with a certain situation, all right? So, beautiful reading, Cancer, for this full moon in Leo. I hope that you have a wonderful February, a wonderful full moon. I'll be back with a March reading for you guys. It's already March. How time is flying. Next week, sometime next week. So tune in then, and I'm going to have perhaps a surprise Valentine's Day video, and it's going to be talking about love, but probably not the love that you think it's going to be talking about. So tune in then. It'll be exciting, and yes, also definitely check out your ascendant, rising, or moon sign. I would highly suggest that, as oftentimes those signs can provide further insight into the situation. I know that I personally resonate a lot with my moon sign, even more than my sun sign, oftentimes. So if you don't know your ascendant, rising, or moon sign, click the link below in the description box. You can enter in your details there, birth time, birthplace, and so forth, and it'll compute your signs for you. However, the time of your birth at the very minute, right, matters. So make sure that it's correct. Otherwise, it could change, right? Even within a matter of minutes, your ascendant rising sign, or even your moon sign. All right. So play around with it, see what you get. It's kind of interesting to get to know yourself beyond just your sun sign, and to understand your elements as well that way. All right. So thank you so much again, Cancer. Enjoy February. Have a wonderful full moon, and I'll see you next week. Bye.